was not funny is Virginia. And if you're living in Virginia, the school board today, the Virginia School Board of Shenandoah County voted to restore names of 2 schools that were previously honoring Confederate leaders. And a vote 5-1. So it was a landslide. It wasn't even close. Thursday evening, they met, they hashed it out. People speaking on all sides. One person for restoring Stonewall Jackson High School, Stonewall Jackson High School, and Ashby Lee, which is for Robert E. Lee, and the 7th Cavalry, Virginia Cavalry Commander Turner Ashby, Ashby Lee Elementary School, to restore those names, which currently just, I think it's called United, no, wait, what is the name of the schools right now? Shenandoah, Mountain View High School and Honey Run Elementary School. So they were changed to that in 2021, of course, following the summer of George Floyd. There was a reckoning of sorts, and all over the country, monuments were taken down, names were changed. I told y'all that window. I said this at the time, because 2 things happened in that massive rush to try to quell the uprising, and we were in a pandemic, so people had time, right? George Floyd, we all sat home and watched this man, and all over the globe, people were in the streets. Corporate America got in the room like they do at Bilderberg and other places, and like, okay, how do we keep the people? Okay, all right, give them a stimulus check, okay, and we're gonna have to give money to HBCUs, okay, just where's Mackenzie Scott? Mackenzie, come in, all right, give money, she ain't stopped, by the way. Give out all of the money.
Right.
What they want, monuments, we don't care about these names, because in a few years they're going to forget, they're going to get tired, because, they don't stick with nothing. Boom, we'll do that. Take down the monuments, because monuments were coming out. People were going to get them, spray painting them and stuff. I know I said this on the radio, Roderick. I said that window, maybe we got 2 years, maybe, but that window's going to close. And what I didn't factor in was not just the closing of the window, but the backlash. Yep. So affirmative action, and now they're suing people for having funds that are devoted to Black empowerment. I said, "Oh, y'all are nasty. This is super nasty, because it's at the electoral position." So they met. One lady got up and what's her name? Let me get her name. Stonewall Jackson. Just one woman in the school board, in the board, got up and she said, "I ask that when you cast your vote, you remember that Stonewall Jackson and others fighting on the side of the Confederacy in this area were intent on protecting the land, the buildings, and the lives of those under attack. Preservation is the focus of those wishing to restore the names. It's preservation of our history and our culture." And I'm going to say the quiet part out loud, our whiteness. Got to preserve that for the future. And so one brother who actually went through, his name is James Wilson Kirby, the son of the last surviving member who desegregated the schools in Virginia. His daddy desegregated the schools in Virginia. His name is James Wilson Kilby. He got up and said, "Why are we here tonight? To go back to a time in history that was very cruel, where hatred and racism continued throughout this country and throughout the United States. Is this the type of legacy that you want to put in Shenandoah County's public school buildings?" And they answered yes, 5-1.
Absolutely.
So Shenandoah County, Robert E. Lee and Turner Ashby, they'll get their elementary school back, and Stonewall Jackson, y'all, Stonewall Jackson High School will be restored 5-1. And here's what you need to know, because we've been talking about voting being important. The composition of the school board that took the names off, completely different. All 6 seats now are held by different people. And I wonder if that was strategy. And how many of you are running for school board? Because this can happen in your town as well. Don't think it can't, because it can. We need to show up to these school board meetings. More importantly, we need to run and be on the board so that we can hold the door. Thoughts and prayers, Roderick Morrow.
Well, I agree with everything you said, especially the part about, I said the same thing on our show. It was a little bit different context. It was when corporate America and all these companies and stuff were like offering, scholarships and employment things and stuff. And I said, listen, this isn't equality, but this is the best we're going to get. So take advantage while you can, because the white guilt is a finite resource, and it runs out. And when it runs out, it's out. Like ain't no like you gotta wait till another tragedy for them to tap back in if they tap back in, because and this is just the way it's gone in America. Is even the progress we've experienced politically a lot of times has been them feeling bad about something, like, oh, MLK got shot. Oh, I guess we should elect our vote. You know, it's like those two things aren't necessarily equal, but obviously I want the ability to vote, but I understand that I know I'm not getting equality out of this. And yes, it ran out, and we're now we're in that backlash phase. We're in that time after after the Civil War, where you get like 8 years of, oh, okay, we can make this thing work. Oh, wait a minute, it's a little, I don't like the way this progress feel. We taking it back. Lynching is back. All that stuff is back, and I feel like that's the era we're in right now. I feel like Trump and not just his election, but this cycle right now is part of this backlash of them still refusing to not run Trump, is them saying, no, you're gonna get this backlash. We know he the one that's gonna inflict it. So we got to do everything we can to make sure he's in power. And then the last thing I'll say is the school board stuff is so important, because what happens with a lot of liberal people is happening right now. We concentrate at the highest level of power, and then we just throw everything at that. And we're like, if it's not president, we not talking about politics, we not voting, we not saying nothing. Republicans for 40 years have come up with plans to get politics from the ground up. Your state, local officials, your school boards, the people that are banning these books, these are elected offices in many cases. And if you don't do your research, if you don't vote in those off-cycle elections, you don't vote in those primaries, because they don't always run the years that the presidents are up for bidding. A lot of times, this is the vote that happened last March. This is the vote that happens November of 2019. And it's very important that we pay attention to that kind of stuff. So we recently had this in North Carolina, where we had some people for Charlotte Mecklenburg running for school board who were claiming to be Democrats, and a little bit of research from our local paper, which I pay for, we found out like their mailing address is the same mailing address as the RNC in North Carolina. Now, why the hell would your mailing address be the same? So they got people really surreptitiously being Republicans running as Democrats. If we don't pay attention on the local level, on a very tight ship, this is the kind of result that happens. You look up, and now Stonewall Jackson is back on your school board or your school name.
I've been saying we should be offensive. We launched the Party of Lincoln 2015 to have folks show up in these closed primary states, register as Republicans, and then put somebody in who might not be, because what R's and D's mean nothing. Mm-hmm. Trump's not a Republican. He was a registered Democrat until he wasn't. These parties mean nothing. It's about power. So where the power is, if you live in a state that is predominantly, like Missouri, Republican, we were talking with a brother from Missouri yesterday, maybe his third party strategy could work. I don't want to say it at the time, in terms of like, because you're in a state that's going to probably go red, right? Mm-hmm. So then you run people, because usually in those primaries and those, the school board and things, like 1,000 people show up. You can win with a strategy, right? You don't need a whole lot. Your block association can run 2 people for the school board, and everybody show up and hand out flyers. Your frat shows up, and you are on the school board collectively the way they move, like a block.
And like in my state, the primaries are split, right? Democrat, Republican. So technically, if those Republicans who were running as Democrat would have slid through the primary, where like less than 5% of the local people vote, that's right, they would have just been on the ballot in November. And everyone we would have had a choice to vote for would have been a Republican, even if they weren't Republican in name.
Period.
So you have to pay attention to this stuff. It's not just whether or not you like who the president is or not. It's bigger than that.
It is way bigger. And as far as, Reconstruction, the backlash of the lynchings that happened after Reconstruction didn't happen before Reconstruction. So what we're experiencing now, if history is a precursor of what could, it's worse, right? Because they're now mad that they even capitulated to you. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm mad that I apologized. I'm mad that I took. So the backlash is nastier. Yes. It's not just the window closing. It's the window closing and then them wrapping a cage around you outside the window.
Like when it's like those people who mess up in relationships and this happens in rom-coms all the time. And they feel like they always use a grand gesture in the third act that fixes everything, right? It's he forgot your birthday, and he also may have cheated on you with his coworker, and he did this and he did that, but he proposed to you at halftime of the Bulls game in front of Michael Jordan, and then we all go, "Yay!" End of the movie, right? They get married happily, but that's not really what people are into, right? It's like the real work is being there every day, doing it for the rest of your life, right? That's how a lot of the apologetics about race in America work. Grand gesture. It's like, hey, we are gonna pass the George Floyd bill of policing. Oh, okay. So but also, what about affirmative action at colleges? Whoa, man, we passed that bill. Why are you still asking for stuff? Like, it's like, well, this is a constant fight that I'm fighting. I'm asking you to join me in my constant fight for equality in America. Nah, we passed the George Floyd bill, so I think we're done here. And I'm getting a little angry that you keep asking. So let's put Stonewall Jackson back on the school.
Right. Right. And I was never for your equity or equality. I just wanted y'all to stop being in the streets protesting and messing with my money. I just wanted you to stop messing with my money. I was never about this equity thing, right? Because that's the thing, right? This fight is not. You can't make somebody get on board or change their hearts and minds, but you can impact them enough for them to behave a certain kind of way. You can't legislate behavior, but your actions in terms of whether you boycott, whether you make things uncomfortable, like, the NFL had to do some things after, we ain't giving Kaepernick back his job, but since y'all watching now, I'm gonna have to, all right, we put racism in the end zone. We're gonna give you every black person we could think of for the halftime, because you didn't think it was gonna have any time to sit home. Here's something for you. You're gonna come on back and give me them dollars, because really we're just we're just a hedge fund giving you gladiator games. I'm gonna say less about that, because this could be a whole 3 hours.